welcome back. Emily, you can step up to the stage and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. You can unmute as well. Thanks so much for stepping up and joining us today. I'm so glad to have you here, and I'm sure we are going to learn again so much. So who is Emily? Our next speaker is Emily Wangui. She's from Kenya. She is first and foremost child of God, as the fathers do. I think there's something she says there. He blessed her with three. Oh, okay, I get you. She is first and foremost a child of God. And as a good father does, I think he has blessed her with three businesses. So can you believe that? She has three streams of income. She's a serious business person. M's Creation Limited, a creative agency specializing in graphic design, printing, and branding. Sefu, Vanished Apartments. They have 7 vanished apartments that offer accommodation, alternative for short and long-term guests. And I think the last one. Did I miss the last one? The last one is what KG? More Interiors. I think that's the last one. So that is in interior decoration and interior design. She considers herself a perfect combination of bubbly and aggressive. Her interest rests in everything that has visible transformation. Because of this, she finds herself pulled to graphic design and interior design. Wow, that's so interesting, because you have 3 streams of revenue, and gladly that you can share with us, because some of us put it big statements that we fear. When we see entrepreneurs, we think that everything fell from heaven. Maybe give us a short background before you joined business. Who were you before then? Welcome, Emily.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily, and thank you so much, Winnie, for having me on this platform and on this webinar. I really, truly appreciate. It's a pleasure and I'm honored. So yes, my name is Emily. My other name is Wakeji Kamore, which is the name that I use mainly on my social media platforms and unofficial duties, or rather, like we like to say, my official name is Emily Wangui, which is the M-Pesa name, as we like to refer to it.
Yeah, is that the name that you have the interior company?
Yes, it's called Wakeji Kamore.
Okay.
I realized you're trying to say Kamor.
Yeah.
It's actually just Kamore as it is.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, it's a name. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yes.
But yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Like you've combined all 3 businesses, still with the background of who you wanted to be. Who are you before? Maybe that's the question everyone is asking. Before you decided to get into this entrepreneurship, who are you before? And maybe what was the inspiration to get into business? Because I think most of the time people can feel the challenge that getting into entrepreneurship can be really challenging.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
So my career journey has been quite interesting, and I like to say that because I did not imagine myself running a business. It's not something that I thought about. As a matter of fact, growing up, I'm a last born in a family of 5 girls. Both my parents were teachers. So wow. I think at some point of my life, I wanted to be a teacher, because I remember most of the days, like when we were walking home from school, I would always have a stick and I would go like hitting, like the nyasis that grow on the side of the road. I would just go hitting them, just like teachers do,
Yeah.
So I think my imagination was that I was going to become a teacher.
Wow.
At some point of my life.
And then what happened?
There was a lot of changes in between, because when I finished high school, I wanted to become an air hostess. I wanted to become a model at some point. So there has been a lot of changes as I've come to understand who I am, and I've come to understand that I am a creative. I don't think at any one point I wanted to be a doctor or an accountant or anything like that. It was always something cool and creative that would leave me, managing something that is beautiful or something that is just growing to become beautiful.
Wow.
So my inspiration for starting a business wasn't necessarily an inspiration that came from me. It was purely circumstantial. So let me just give you my journey from when I finished high school.
That would be nice.
When I finished high school, again, as I mentioned, I wanted to be a model, but I finished high school when I was very, very, extremely young, because both of my parents were teachers. So I really went to school very young, and I'm the last one. So there was no housekeeper at some point. So I just went with my mom to school, and she would just place me at the front of a class as she teaches. And that's how I ended up joining school. So I finished high school when I was about 15 or 16 years old, which was very young. And my dad at that point felt he didn't want me to become a model because I think of the shows as well I was watching at that time. I think I was watching Miss Universe. And of course, there's always that category that has bikini. And my dad would be like, no, my daughter is not doing that.
I can imagine, and I can't believe it, because it's like thinking all the weird things that are going to happen to you.
Yes. So he told me if I still want to pursue it when I was 21 years old, I could go ahead and pursue it. But then that meant between 16 and 21, I didn't find something to do. So at that point, we had a family business, which was a salon, because again, we are 5 girls, and my dad was like, I'm not paying for hairs, dressing things. Let me just open a salon, and all my daughters can go there, and that cuts my bills like tremendously. So we had a family salon at that point. So I came to Nairobi and did a diploma in cosmetology, which is basically a diploma in hairdressing and in beauty.
Oh.
And then I went back to our up country, because that's where I was brought up, and that's where I grew up. And that's where the business was. So I went to run it, to run the business. So I ran the salon, and then my dad opened for me a beauty shop. And that was like my first experience of ever running a business, or my first experience with business. And it did not end well. I ran it to the ground.
Okay.
I think I was too young to be running a business. So I think from that experience, I was very scared to start a business. It wasn't anything that I really wanted to do. So when I came to Nairobi, that was, I think, in the year 2005 or 2006, I came back to Nairobi and I worked in a few salons. And in total, I had the career in the beauty industry for 6 years. And then after that, I decided I wanted something different. I actually got employed in a gym, someplace in Nairobi. I was working as a receptionist. And then I got employed in a place in town, which was a college, and I was working as a receptionist up until the end of the year 2007.
Yeah. In
2007, 2008, there was a post-election violence. And my life took a serious dip. Like I lost my job, I couldn't find work. And I know I'm in Nairobi, I just don't know what to do. And I'm not going back to upcountry. At that time, I'd lost both my parents. So really there was nothing to go back home to. And remember, I'd run down a whole business to the ground. So I wasn't gonna go back to my upcountry. So I was just left really without anything to do. And then I got a job to sell SIM cards on the streets of Nairobi. So that at that time the company was SIM cards. SIM cards, like the phone SIM cards. So at that time the company was Kensel.
So that's, okay.
So I sold Kensel SIM cards, and then I think Kensel was bought by Zain. I can't even remember. There have been so many transitions from Kensel to Airtel. So I think it was bought by Zain. So I sold the Zain SIM cards on the streets for a while. Yes.
You've really done much.
So yeah, so I think
useful.
Every skill is useful, because let me tell you, I think in that period where I was selling SIM cards on the streets, of Nairobi. First, I learned that, I learned how to handle rejection, because you'll talk to someone and someone will just brush you off. Someone will think you're a thief. Someone, like there's a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And I think it probably, and then Nairobi was even kinder than it is now. Now Nairobi is not kind, like the city is not kind. So yes, there was a lot of rejection. There was a lot of walking, because I used to live in South B at that time and used to walk to town. Then I would walk all the way to maybe Dagoretti Corner, selling SIM cards on the road all the way, and then have to walk back to South B. So it was like one of the lowest moments of my life. Well, financially, because I did it with a lot of joy, with a lot of confidence, and with a lot of pride. I was still, even as I was doing that, I think I did it gracefully. There was never at any one point where I felt like, oh my God, this is going to be my life for the rest of my life. I was just like, this is a phase. I do this, then God elevates me to the next thing he wants me to do.
Yeah.
So I sold
very, very important, especially like you're saying, it was the lowest moment, but you still took it nicely and said that it's being the opportunity I have. This phase will come and pass, and you still enjoyed doing it, and you did it every day.
Yes, I actually really enjoyed doing it. It wasn't the best work, of course, and I knew that I was created for more. I mean, I was like, my God, my dad didn't educate me to be selling SIM cards on the street. But still, I was like, I mean, this is what I have now. It's feeding me. At least I'm not stealing from anybody. And so I did it with a lot of grace, and I did it with a lot of confidence and a lot of pride.
Yeah.
So I think at some point in 2009, someone took a notice of me and they employed me. Wow. Finally, I was out of the streets and they employed me into an office. So the company that I got employed to was a creative agency. And I think that is where my love for creative agency and for advertising and for printing and branding started, because I was employed as an account executive or an account manager.
Okay.
So my role in that company was basically to bring in new clients. And you see, at that point now, I'm using my experience from the streets. Yes. I'm using my marketing experience, my sales experience. I'm actually making use of it. So I was employed at that point.
And you're no longer challenged by the rejection, because you're already used to the rejection. And you know what to do.
I'm already used to it.
You know how to look for the client. So God has prepared you already for this next stage in your life.
Most definitely. Of course, in the preparation, you're not thinking like that. But once you are in a place where you're like, oh my God, this is where I use this skill. This is where I flourish.
Yes.
With the skills that I was learning. Yeah. So I used the skill. I was getting in new clients, and I was also managing the accounts that we had, or the clients that we had at that moment. So because it was a creative agency, I had to do a lot of managing the suppliers, because I mean, when you're an agency, you're in the middle between a client and a supplier. So we were in the middle between the client and the factories that do printing, the factories that do branding, the factories that do a lot of installation of signages and stuff like that. So I had to create and manage a lot of rapport and relationships, both with suppliers and both with suppliers and clients at the same time. So that was actually very interesting. And also create a good relationship with the designers in the company, because sometimes the client wants a job done and the designer is tired, but now you have to sit there and just be like, oh, please just do for me this job. I need to give it up before morning. And, just basically managing relationships, which was a good platform for me, because it really taught me how to do that. I learned how to manage a business, to manage a creative agency, number one. I learned how to be presentable even before clients now, because I'd come from the streets, and I'd come from my previous experience was dealing with people's hair, really. It was never like, presenting yourself in an office or presenting yourself in a boardroom that has both, people with big titles, and you're just over there feeling like a fly.
Yeah, everything that you had experienced before came so useful to this life.
So useful into this life. So
and I worked for that company. Now it prepared you to run your own agency, because as you're managing the accounts, you're learning managerial skills that you need to be the boss now.
I actually learned how to manage, an order from the time when a client writes you an LPO to the time you deliver and you invoice it and you collect the payment. Like that's the whole process, and it's quite a lot of process. There's a lot of process that goes into that, and there's a lot of supervising jobs that as they're being done. There's a lot of sitting down with suppliers and negotiating for prices. There's a whole lot of skill that I learned from that I didn't even know that I would ever use. Because again, in my mind, I'm not thinking I will ever open a business.
But God never tells you what is preparing you for. You do the work, and then the next level comes, and then you are already having the skills that you need for that level.
That's true. That's true. So I did work for that company for about like 3 years, and then I was poached by a different company. So I went to work in a different company as a marketing executive.
Oh.
So the difference in this company is that, you remember this other one was an agency. So it was between the client and the factory, or rather the company that is actually doing the production. So this other company that I had gone to work for is actually a production company. So I'm no longer in the agency. Like now I'm actually dealing with the production. So I know how to purchase fabrics. Like maybe if a client says, I want 1,000 t-shirts, I know where to get the fabric. I learned how to write orders, how to give it to the people who actually do the stitching, how to, how to supervise the whole process of the fabric has been cut. So this is the stitching, this is the buttoning, this is the branding, or rather this is the embroidery that is happening. These ones are being screen printed. So there's a lot of learning of techniques, like branding techniques. There's a lot of learning of how to run a factory and how to run a whole production. Because my job, even if I was a marketing executive, means that I needed to bring in new clients and new orders. But when those orders come in, I need to supervise them from the time they're ordered to the time they're actually delivered. I actually need to supervise the whole production process.
Yes, so that you're successful.
So that I'm successful. So that the client feels like we have someone taking care of our order. We don't have to keep calling the company. We can actually just call Emily, and Emily will tell us where our t-shirts are at, or Emily will tell us how long it will take for the banners to be ready, or how long it will take. So there was just that trust, and also still managing clients, managing supplier, managing production, managing the quality. So there was just a whole good experience that God was preparing me for, something that I didn't even know He was preparing me for. So somewhere
that's a whole like university degree, PhD.
I know.
In running organization and preparing you, especially because you are running now 3 organizations, just preparing you for running those 3 organizations.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the fact that I didn't even know I was going to do that, and the fact that I didn't even know I was going to ever run a business. Like if you asked me at that point, I would have been happily employed. But I didn't have a problem with it. I was happy.
So yes, just happy to be an employee. Then what happened? Yeah. What happened?
So at one point, one of the clients, because I was almost like the face of the company, in the previous organization where I was working, the agency where I was working, so one of the clients called me and told me, "Oh, Emily, we need you to design." It's an NGO. So they do a lot of manuals, they do a lot of reports, because they have to report where the money they have been given by donors have gone. So they told me, we need you to design a report for us. Remember, I am not a graphic designer. I don't know how to design anything. At this point, I didn't even own a laptop. I was just an employee, happy, working with the company, computers, and I'm happy at that point. So they told me they needed me to design a report for them. I remember having that conversation with the CEO of that NGO and telling him, I'm not a graphic designer. Like I can't help you. Please find someone else to help you with this job. Find someone else to do this for you. And he told me, Emily, you will design that report. I don't want to work with someone else. You're the only one I know. Because remember, I was the account executive. I was managing accounts when I was at the agency. So now at this point, I told him, you will give me a few, like maybe just a week, to at least try and learn how to design, because I didn't know anything about graphic design. So what would happen is that because sometimes production in the company I was working in was happening even at night, we used to have night shifts. So I would stay behind in the night shift, even if I was not supposed to stay at night. And now I would sit down with the computer at the workplace, my computer, and I would just learn how to design. Like, what do I need to learn how to design? I would go on YouTube, I would go on Google. Like, I just immersed myself on how do people do graphic design? How do you use Photoshop? How do you use Illustrator? How do you use InDesign? How do you do this? So I told the client, I'm ready. You send me the text, because I usually send you the text in like a Word document, and then you design it and send it to them in a PDF that is designed. Mm-hmm. So they sent me the artwork. They sent me the text. I took a look at it and I said, you know what, Emily, let's do this. Let's design. Let's try and design. What's the worst that can happen? If you're not able to do it, you just go back to the client and tell them, see, I'm not able to do this. Please get someone else. So I designed the report and I sent it. I remember I spent about like 2 or 3 nights designing that report. So every time during the day, I would do my normal marketing job. And then in the night, I would stick around and design up to maybe like 11 or even midnight and figure out a way home. Luckily, I used to live very near where I used to work. So I could either just walk home or even just, get a matatu home. At that time, there was just matatus all the time. Mm-hmm. So I designed the report, sent it to the client, and they paid me. I was like, what?
Wow.
I can actually do this.
Wow. You challenged yourself into a career that you didn't have any knowledge. Yep. You're not shaken that you don't have any qualifications. And I'm just saying this just to enable anyone who's thinking that you must always have those qualifications for you to perform. Because when you begin to look back, and that is the question I would ask you, what did they see inside you that they believed you can do it? It's the results that you are giving them. So those results helped them to see what is inside you before yourself, you could see what is inside. After all, if they told you that you can't do, you'd have believed. Because the one thing about us is that we ourselves don't believe ourselves at all. We are the first people to doubt ourselves, while other people believe in us. So you can see that the belief in that person really helped. And I think one of the things that you did right was to say to yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And you still went ahead and did it. And they liked it and they paid you. And that gave you a lot of confidence to realize that, honestly, I can do this and I've been paid for it. Wow, that's really something interesting, inspiring, and at least challenging. If you're still thinking, no, I can't do this, I need to go to school, or haven't done this, I can't do it. So you didn't stop yourself because you had never done that. You still went ahead.
I still went ahead. So so I did that first report. They gave me another job. And then finally the director called me and told me, now, Emily, you've been doing work for us, but we cannot continue to pay you with a check written Emily Wangui. You need to open a company. I was like, what?
What? When others believe in you.
Others believe in you more than you believe in yourself.
Exactly.
I feel like that has happened with me so many times. It has happened with me even just before, even when my dad believed I could run the salon and believed that I could run the beauty shop, and even went ahead to, because the money he invested in the beauty shop, something I didn't mention, was actually his retirement money, which is something I'm truly, truly thankful to my dad for, because even if it failed, it taught me that I can actually do it. Even if I did it scared, it actually taught me that I can actually do it. So I did the second report, and then they told me, the director called me and told me, we cannot continue paying you under the name Emily Wangui, so you have to actually open a company. And I was like, okay, I don't know even what to call it. He asked me, what do you want to call it? And then I told him, I think we can call it M's Creations. And I told him as a joke. And then he said, okay, come for your check. So immediately I said, M's Creations. He actually wrote me a check for the next job he wanted to give me, because he needed to give me a down payment, because now it was actually a bigger job.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, now I have a check. And I don't
Wow.
even have a company. So I actually had
Wow.
payment before I had a company.
Wow. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
That's
I think
truly wonderful.
yeah, I think the only way they were to get you to get moving is to give you that check. Because if they didn't give you that check in the company's name, you'd still be
I would
doubting
still
yourself.
be employed today. For
Yes,
sure, I would still be employed today.
Yes, yes. They had to switch your mind on, and like you have to get thinking and doing it. Wow, wonderful.
So a few months later, I registered the company, M's Creations. I remember even when I went to, I don't even remember which house we usually used to go to get the business registration then, because it wasn't online. I just didn't even write any other name. I was like, M's Creations has to be there because I have a check I need to bank, And then we used to wait. We used to wait for like a month, or I don't. It used to be so long. It wasn't as it is, as fast as it is now. So I actually did the work. I had a down payment check in my bag every single day. I used to just look at it and say, oh my God, I'm going to open a company. I'm going to not be self-employed,
It's really inspiring. So that's so inspiring. Like, what do you mean? Like, you have a check, you already have been paid for a job.
Yeah.
You're holding the money in your hands. You're like looking at it and seeing it can't be, it is true. Yeah, somebody said,
how is this going to
indeed you are good at what you are doing and you're very, very inspiring. That is great inspiration. Like, don't wait. You will never be ready. You are always ready.
That's true.
And the thing is, the self-doubt in you could have created anything. And that is what stops a lot of people from taking action, from doing anything, from moving forward. Waiting to be ready. True. There's no time to be ready.
Waiting to be ready. That's true. Yeah. There's no time to be ready.
Yeah.
So I remember even before that check could go through, because the client needed their work delivered, what happened is I actually went to talk to the supplier because after I designed the job and the design was approved, I needed to print the job. But remember, I'm still carrying a check and I still don't have a business registered. I don't have a bank account, so I can't really bank it. But the client is waiting for the job to be delivered. So that means now at this point, I needed to rely on the rapport and the relationships that I had created when I was working as an agency with the suppliers. So now I could go and approach a supplier and tell him, listen, I need a report printed. I need 500 copies of this report printed. I don't have money, but I have a check of a business that I haven't registered. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to print for me this book. I'm going to have it delivered, but I'm going to leave you with this check that I have, the down payment check that I have. So I left it with the supplier, with the printer. Then they gave me the job, I delivered. The client gave me the half of the other payments. Now at that time, the company had opened, I banked the check, and then I took the money and went and paid the printer, and then he gave me the rest of the check to go and bank it. So just the fact that God had prepared the relationships that I was going to work with at that point, at the time when I was working at the agency, and I didn't even know that was God, what God was doing. And some of those relationships that I created there are relationships that I still have 11 years down the line, because it's been 11 years of M's Creations being in existence. And even my courier guy, the courier guy we used to use in the year 2009 is the courier guy I still use even to date. Some of the printers that I met then, some of the branding companies that I met then are people who I use even to date. And it's just amazing to just see that nothing goes to waste when it comes to God. And I don't like to pretend that I can do this without God. Honestly, for me, it's pointless to even say that I can do this without God. So for me, what I would say is this: nothing that God takes you through goes to waste. He knows exactly why he's taking you through it. He knows exactly why you're going through that experience that you're going through. And for sure, you will get to use it some point in future.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. So that is how my first company started. And as I've mentioned, all my companies are always circumstantial. God always leads me to, okay, this is what we are doing now. It has never been something I have sat and planned to do. It's always circumstantial. So the second business, which is the Sefu furnished apartments, and these are the furnished apartments that we have, or what people here in Nairobi call Airbnbs. Yes. I have about 9 now. I have 4 that I own, and I have about 5 that I manage in different locations, both in the city and outside of the city. And I mean, for the last, I think 6-7 years now, we've been offering accommodation alternatives to people who like hotel standards, but in home settings, who want to stay in a house, but they don't necessarily want to not have the standards of a hotel. So we offer the hotel standards in a home setting. So how that started is, at this point, I think it's 2015. At this point, it was 2015. I had moved into a 2-bedroom house. And the reason I moved into a 2-bedroom house is because my niece was in Form 4, and I thought that she was going to come to a university in Nairobi. So in my head, I was telling myself, I'm going to host her, and I'm going to be so happy hosting her when she comes to campus, and that way she doesn't have to stay in a hostel.
Yeah.
So I got myself a 2-bedroom house. I furnished it, and because even then I was still passionate about interior design, I had really gone all out to make my house look good. At least in those days, in 2015 days, or rather 2015's measure, it looked really good. I had invested in it. She had her own bedroom, I had my own bedroom. And then when the year began, or rather when it was time for her to go to campus, she was called into Maseno University, which is like in a whole completely different city from Nairobi. It's about 8 or 9 hours from Nairobi. So I couldn't host her. So here I am. I'm stuck with a 2-bedroom house. I'm not going to move because I've already put in too much of my money in this house, in making it look good. So I have a whole extra room in my house that I don't know what to do with. And at that time, my sister was working in a hotel industry. She was working in the hotel industry. So she told me, do you know there's this company called Airbnb who are allowing people to host guests in their houses? And I mean, foreigners can come, someone can come and take in that room, and then you can share like the house, and then they get to pay you. I was like, really, with a stranger? How does that even work?
Of course, very scary.
It's very scary. Like, what do I do? So she told me, let me do this. Let me give you a guest. She's going to be a lady. She's been looking for a place to stay, and she doesn't want to stay in a hotel because she really wants to immerse herself in the locals, with the locals. She wants to learn, she wants to learn the language. She wants to learn how to cook the food, just the daily life of how a Kenyan lives or how a Nairobian lives. So she was Italian. And I remember she came to my house and she stayed in my room, that one extra room that I had. And she stayed there for about 45 nights. It was actually, she became my housemate.
And you're getting money with your house.
She paid me so much money. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was possible to get so much money from just that one room. I was like, what? That is unbelievable. And because in that time, there was very little people doing that, of course, because of the panic and the risk involved, just the fear, the doubting, like, really, how do I give my house to a stranger? And here I was hosting someone for 45 nights. I mean, even right now, getting a guest for 45 nights is a dream.
Wow.
So yeah, luckily she was an online teacher, so she would teach online. She just needed like a proper room, a proper place to sit and work, proper Wi-Fi. So my house was fantastic for her. So I used to wake up in the morning, go to work, of course, because I'm still running M's Creations at that time. And then I would come back. She has cooked. She was such a good guest. And we are still good friends up to now. Like, we actually literally very good friends. Every time we come to Kenya, she has to visit me. So that's how I started Sefu Furnished Apartments. I started hosting with my room in my house.
They say use what you have.
Use what you
have, start where you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So I did that for about 3 years. And then I was like, okay, now I need to expand. I need to get a furnished apartment that is not my house, furnish it, get an apartment, rent it, furnish it, and then give it out to guests who will pay me, and I can collect money from it. So I did that to the first one. I got my first one, of course, grew to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one. And it was, I mean, it's been great since then. I mean, I can't complain.
Wow.
So all my businesses, even the second one, even the third one, I'm going to tell you, it was still very circumstantial. It was never something I planned to do, but God always prepares me for it.
Yeah. I guess like the third one, since now you are working with the furnished apartments, that forced you to think about interior. And while solving the problem for that, you saw another opportunity.
Yep. It's always one business bears another one, or a situation bears a business, which has been such a great thing to happen into my life. And I remember, even because now I had like 4 of my own apartments, but I manage up to 9. Actually, I think up to 10 apartments in Nairobi. There's some that I don't own, but I manage. But also, even managing was not even something I started out doing. So one of my cousins calls me and tells me, oh, I have a house and I want to turn it into a furnished house. I want to furnish it. It's empty. I've had a tenant for a very long time. I don't want to have a tenant anymore. So please just come and furnish it. So I go to her house. It's a very big house, about a 4-bedroom with an SQ, like own compound. It's completely empty. And she tells me, oh, I hear you can do interior design. I'm like, you hear? From where? At that point, I'm an interior designer, but chini ya maji. I don't tell anybody. I just design my own spaces. I design my own things. I don't market myself. Like, I'm just quiet. I had so much doubt. Let me be honest. At that point, Winnie, I had so much doubt as far as interior design is concerned, because I felt like I didn't have the education. I knew stuff. I was passionate about it, but I didn't have papers to show that I'm actually an interior designer. So I told her, I'm actually in school doing interior design and decoration. I was doing it online at that point, because at some point I said to myself, I need to get papers, so that then if that's the fear, if that's the doubt, get educated, get the knowledge. I think it's a previous speaker who said that it's important to get educated on the things that you think you don't know. That way it just clears the doubt and it clears the fear that you have. So I got educated. I did school online. I think it was such a tough course, let me tell you, because I'm running 2 businesses at this time. And I'm in school. And I mean, the assignments are crazy. Like, sometimes I remember there's a module where I had to literally draw out a plan for a 3-bedroom story house. I'm like, give me a flat house, that's fine. But now when you add another floor on top, what are we even doing?
And you're working.
And I'm working, and I have to, work. I have to work during the day. I have to. At that time, I was still working even at night for the apartments, because at that time I would actually pick guests from the airport. So sometimes I'll be at the airport at some crazy hour, like 3 a.m. And because I have a client at 3 a.m. to go and pick, that means I'll come home. I'll do my online school at 3 a.m. I'll be out going to pick guests from the airport. I'll come back. Probably I'm checking out another guest at 5 a.m. It was crazy. It was a crazy time, to be honest.
But it's paying off. It's paying off because all the skills are interrelated. So you don't have to go to the first stage. So, and each is helping the other.
And I always say that for you to master something, you have to put in the work. There's no way I would have escaped putting in the work with the checking in guests and checking them out. There's no way I would have escaped the hours it took me to learn how to design. I couldn't have escaped it. Now I'm able to do design in 5 minutes. Someone will tell me, oh, I need a flyer. I'll be like, send it. And I can do it in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I've sent it back to you. But that people tell me, but I'm paying you too much and you spent 5 hours. But I'm like, no, I spent years before I could get to the 5-10 minutes.
Yes.
I've spent years.
Yes.
I've put in my time.
Yes. It's actually very hard to explain to somebody that the time you have spent to learn that skill, for it to look like it's so easy, it's a long time. And for you to perfect that skill. So when you're charging, they don't feel, they don't, they start calculating the amount and forgetting the time you took to be able to reach where you have reached, for you to be able to solve that problem very fast. And a lot of times, like when I find people arguing about the amount, and I think this is also maybe something I'm hoping we will get the finance people to come and help us in the group, especially on the money mindset side, so that people can see that when you develop your skill to a certain level, you can charge any amount.
Any amount that you want.
Yeah, and
Mhm,
it's not about
mhm,
the amount, it's about the expertise that you have built around that. So that when you tell
That's true.
somebody, I want 100,000, they don't say saying, oh, 100,000 for that small thing. It's not small. It's taken years, it's taken
Mhm.
money, it's taken everything, the work, like you said,
That's
the
true.
work for
Mhm.
you to be able to charge that, for you to
That's
perfect
true.
it has taken that. And
You
and
have to put in time.
you have, there is no shortcut to that, and you have to build it. And if you don't actually
Yeah,
build it, that is why it will be a challenge. And I think that is why you find for some people, when you maybe charge them that fee, they go away. But at the same time, they want themselves to charge more, but they don't want to put in the work. It can't happen.
that's
There's
true.
a
That's
balance in
true.
life. There's a
Mm.
balance in
And
life.
I think even in business, like even in the creative world that I'm in, there's always going to be someone who charges cheaper than you. And I've learned that, I mean, that at the beginning I was always like, so should I charge cheap? Should I, like there was a lot of doubt in that process. But I told myself there's always someone who's going to see your value. There's always someone who's going to be like, you know what, Emily is going to get this thing done in 20 minutes. If I engage another designer, she or he is going to take another 2 days. I don't have 2 days. I want it done in 15, 20 minutes. And
Yes.
so they will pay you for that, and they will pay you for that value. There's always someone who's going to be charging more than you, and there's always someone who's going to be charging less than you. So you find your place, and don't be apologetic about it. Don't be apologetic about the value that you bring on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, I was telling you about how I was designing my my cousin's house, and I was still in school at that time. So she told me, so how much do you think it would cost to furnish this house? Remember, the house was completely empty, and she wanted me to furnish it. She wanted me to paint it. She wanted me to do renovation, some tiling job. I mean, she wanted me to furnish it up to a spoon in the kitchen, like from everything you can imagine. She has curtains, electronics, beds, beddings, because she wanted to turn it into a furnished apartment. So I gave her the budget. I wrote the budget. I was like, okay, this is the budget. This is how much it's going to take. This is how long it's going to take. She gave me the money, all of it at once. I was like, are you sure you even want to give me this money? And she left the country. She was like, oh, by the time I'm coming back in like 3 months, the house should be ready, like completely done. Like now we are ready to even take in guests. All right. So that was me doing it, shaking, in doubt, in I don't know what I'm doing. I've never engaged with fundis before. I've never have had to work with a carpenter or someone who does tiling or someone who does renovation, painters. It was crazy. It was crazy, but it was such an experience. It was such an experience because now the things that I was learning in school at that time, I was literally putting them in practice. Like I would learn something that previous night, and then the following day, I'm already putting it in practice.
Yes.
So 3 months down the line, the house was done. It looked amazing. I shocked myself. I didn't expect that. I don't think it looked, I don't think if I was told to do it now, it would look the same. But I didn't think that is how it would come out. It actually came out very, very well. She went on to do the business, and she started managing it. And then she started referring me to other people who had houses and they were tired of having tenants. So every time she'd be like, oh, you have to go and meet this person. She has a house and she wants to turn it into a furnished apartment. So her friends started giving me houses, like empty houses. I didn't have anything. And they'll just give me money and I'll just furnish it. And then most of her friends were like, oh, no, as we can't manage it, we don't know how to do this furnished apartment, don't know how to manage this business. So, Emily, you have to manage it for us. So that's how I started managing people's houses.
Wow.
So I would take a house, I would furnish it, and I would list it as a property, and I would manage it.
Wow. 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 Every solution you provided put you to the next level of who you are supposed to be without your knowledge.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. That's
been
so nice,
amazing.
so inspiring. I'm just hoping. Yeah, I can see the messages are coming hot and fast, like you are really inspiring. Wow, that is very, very inspiring. And I think if somebody is listening to you, they can see that nothing is stopping them. They are stopping themselves. And if they are stopping themselves, they need to ask the question or to challenge themselves. How long? because you can see you are given all these opportunities. You didn't have experience. You doubted, completely doubted yourself. You still were able to go through it, and you did it. And that is why you are where you are today. That is a very inspiring story in less than 30 minutes, can I say? It's too much, man. You need to write a book. Right. No, this is too much.
So many people tell me I need to write a book. I will write a book.
Yeah, please write a book. I'm here. I'm here to help you. You need to write a book because that's a lot of information in terms of self-doubt, where people think they're not good in anything, and people come and point to you that this is what you are going to do. Even with all the fear that you had, you still went ahead and did. Even with all the doubts you had, you still went ahead and did. Even with all the inexperience, you still went ahead and did it. Like, who becomes a manager when they have never managed something that they're even
who becomes a manager without having, because I didn't even go, I haven't gotten any degree. Like, I didn't go to a university to get any degree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
God has been really good.
Those are the things. Yeah, you are giving results, and you said something very important. It's the worth you bring forth that people will pay you, even if they want to just. Can you believe she just gave you the full amount? You have never even handled that.
Can you imagine?
She trusted you that much. And I think something maybe we missed earlier. It's the part of relationship, because that's another currency. When you build the relationship, it helps people to trust you. And they trusted you. They give you so much money. They didn't even know what you do, and you didn't even have a sample of what you will do. And you still believe.
True.
I think it's very key. And all these skills you learned within time. Wow, that is inspiring. I think everybody's inspiring. Somebody says, Beatrice says you really have been very helpful. I don't know what you have done. Maybe
she's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And you know, the great thing about when you do things, the people around you get affected positively, because there's no way they can see themselves lower than that. They have to come up to the level where you are. Yeah, that's very, very nice inspiration. Wow. Yeah. And Carol says you're such an inspiration. Wow, that's a good story. Wow. Nice.
Thank you so much, Winnie. I appreciate it. It's been such a journey, and I really, really, truly believe that God is able. Honestly, like I say, I don't think I would ever even say that that I can even have done this without God. Honestly, for me, God has been a key role. Even when I didn't know He was a key role, even when I was busy not being in His camp, even when He was just being a good God. And I probably do believe that it's the prayers my parents made, because I don't even think that I ever made some of the prayers of the things that I see being manifested now. It must have been my prayers, the prayers that my mom made about for me and my dad made for me, that has led to this. And it's been such a great experience. And I think one of the things that I would like to tell people is that if you're given a task, no matter how big it is, no matter how challenging it could be, just do your best. Do your best. Even if you don't know what your best looks like, just give it your total and full best. And I truly believe there's a reward that comes from that. I truly, truly believe there's a reward that comes from doing your best.
Yeah, there isn't, like you're saying, God always prepares us, even if we doubt. God cannot give us what we cannot handle, and He knows what you are capable of. He will throw anything and everything at you, and He knows what you are capable of. Even if you doubt yourself, He knows this is possible. You can actually do it. So as you went through all that, He knew that you are capable, and He knew that if somebody just came and says, go do that business, you'd have said no. And that's why He planted the right people to make sure that you see in your life the things that you never imagined. And maybe those are the prayers of your parents. Like, you will get into being in business, you'll do business, you'll appreciate, but you wouldn't have really agreed to that if they told you. So God had used somebody to make sure that is manifested in your life. So well done. That's really nice. It's it's a long journey with so many twists that leads you where you're supposed to really be. Because here you
Yeah.
start here, you go there, you go that side, you go that side, you go that, and here you are doing what you are meant to be doing, and appreciating that everything that you went through was meant for you, and it was meant to help you through this journey for you to be where you are today. Wow, that's a lot.
True.
That's a lot. My last question, unless there's anything else I've forgotten, and you can let me know if there's anything else that you've forgotten. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh, Winnie, I'd like to believe that I'm still my younger self.
No, 10 years from now, maybe that time when you're messing your father's business. What would you have told yourself that time? Now you're wiser.
Now I'm wiser.
Now
I
you're
think
wiser.
I've told myself that, like you girls know that you are going to achieve things that are beyond your imagination, things that you didn't even, imagine that you can actually do. You are going to achieve those things. If you can just, do the things that God has placed for you to do today and do them excellently, not necessarily thinking. I like to say that people think about what tomorrow or 20 years from now look like, and forgetting that today you've been given a task and you're not doing it well. So for me, what I would tell my younger self is whatever task you're given on a daily basis, do it well. Even if it means go fetch for me tea, do it well, because you don't even know who that person you're fetching tea will mean to you 10 years from now. So whatever task it is that you're given to do today, do it well, because an addition of today's task, tomorrow's task will just bring you to a place that you have not even imagined that you could ever do. The second thing I would like to say to my younger self would be, you can be anything you want to be. Even if, I don't know, at the age of 40, I decide I want to be a doctor, I can be, and you can be a doctor. If at the age of 45, you decide you want to be a dancer, you can be. If at the age of 50, you decide, oh no, now I'm going to be, I don't know, a YouTuber or a podcaster or a traveler, you can be anything that you want to be. The only thing that stops you is yourself. It's your fears, it's your insecurities, it's your doubts, but basically, it's just yourself. So you can be anything that you want to be, and whatever task you're given today, do it excellently.
Exactly. So true. Just do it excellently. You never know. Every task, you never know. Do it to the best of your ability. And know that at any one time in your life, you can be whoever you choose to be. Like this life is for you. There's no rehearsals, as some people say, and there's no second chances. It's this one.
True.
Be who you wish to become. Thank you so much. I'm so inspired. I'm so happy that you have really shared how this, I was wondering, but I'm so happy and inspired by that story. So it's a really great story, and I'm sure you'll find that many more will come. I'm sure the next time we speak to you, maybe another one will have cropped inside that.
Oh yeah, it will have cropped. Trust me, it will.
Because you can never know what will bring the next and the next. And as long as you have an open mind, things happen. This life is for all of us to live it, and to live it to the fullest of ourselves. Let's stop doubting who we are, what we are capable of, because we don't always know our capability. It can be something that, like you said, it's something you never imagined. And if somebody told you some years back, you'd say no, but it is there manifesting in your life because it is there. So thank you so much for all the time, and thank you for sharing that. I don't know about anybody else, but today you have really inspired me. All the speakers today have really inspired and really renewed the belief that every one of us has something inside them that is unique, and we need to tap in that unique thing to be who we are supposed to be. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I truly, truly appreciate. And I think just to mention, or rather just to, or I like to pray for people. My prayer would be that for every person who's listening, that God would send them people in their lives who would believe in them, as the people that have believed in me. It could be your father, it could be your sister, it could be a CEO of a company, it could be someone who employs you from the streets and gives you an office. It could be anyone. But I pray that God will give you someone who would believe in you so much and push you to the purpose that you're supposed to be. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Yeah, I believe that is true. We always have somebody who believes in us more than we do believe in ourselves. And when we listen to that person, we become who we are supposed to become. So thank you so much for sharing. We'll share the video once it's ready and you can be able to share to your friends. And thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for your comments, your interaction. Thank you for the messages that you've sent to all our speakers. We want to thank you them for sharing and being vulnerable. They say being vulnerable enough to share what they went through, their fears, their doubts, and the courage they had to take action to do the things they never thought they could do. They are here sharing because of that courage. You too, as a listener, please don't just listen. Go do something so that tomorrow it will be your day to share with others that need to hear from you. Because we assume that nobody wants to hear, and there's someone out there waiting and wanting to hear from you. Please don't allow this opportunity to pass just because you have self-doubt. You've heard from the four speakers, they all had self-doubt, and today they are speaking something different. I believe in you. So go out there and be who you're supposed to be. Until next month on 8th of December, it's a goodbye for today. Thank you and goodbye.